When installing fire alarm cables in a drop ceiling or other semi-open area, it is crucial to adhere to the support spacing requirements outlined in both NFPA 70, the National Electrical Code, and NFPA 72, the National Fire Alarm and Signaling Code. Regarding the National Electrical Code, Chapter 300 addresses wiring methods and materials. Specifically, Section 300.11 CON states that cables installed in a drop ceiling or other semi-open area shall be supported at intervals not exceeding 6 feet. Section 300.30 emphasizes that cables shall be supported in such a manner as to protect them from physical damage and excessive stress. Now considering NFPA 72, Chapter 12 focuses on wiring and interconnecting circuits. Section 12.4 2.1 reiterates that cables installed in a drop ceiling or other semi-open area shall be supported at intervals not exceeding 6 feet. Furthermore, Section 12.4 2.2 highlights that cables shall be supported in such a manner as to prevent physical damage and ensure reliable operation under fire conditions. In addition to these code requirements, several other factors should be taken into consideration. Firstly, if the drop ceiling is subject to movement or vibration, the cable supports should be designed to withstand these forces. Secondly, the maximum distance between cable supports may need to be reduced if a cable is subject to additional factors that could cause damage, such as exposure to extreme temperatures or corrosive substances. Thirdly, it is generally good practice to use cable ties or other approved methods to secure the cables to the supports. To elaborate on the NEC requirements, the purpose of Chapter 300 is to provide general requirements for wiring methods and materials that are not specifically covered in other chapters of the Code. Section 300.11 addresses securing and supporting wiring. The requirement in 300.11 CON is intended to prevent cables from sagging or becoming damaged due to their own weight or from being disturbed by other objects. This is particularly important in drop ceilings where cables may be exposed to movement and vibration. Section 300.30 expands on this concept by requiring that cables be supported in a way that protects them from physical damage and excessive stress. This can include using appropriate support hardware, such as cable ties, clamps, or straps, and ensuring that the cables are not pulled too tightly or bent sharply. Focusing on NFPA 72 requirements, the intent of Chapter 12 is to ensure that fire alarm systems are properly wired and interconnected to provide reliable operation in the event of a fire. Section 12.4 specifically addresses wiring requirements. The requirement in 12.4 2.1 mirrors the NEC requirement for cable support spacing in drop ceilings. This is because the reliability of fire alarm systems is paramount and any potential for cable damage or failure must be minimized. Section 12.4 2.2 reinforces this point by requiring that cables be supported in a way that prevents physical damage and ensures reliable operation under fire conditions. This may involve using fire-resistant cable supports or providing additional protection for cables that are exposed to high temperatures. When considering movement or vibration, drop ceilings are often subject to movement from building occupants, HVAC systems, or other sources. If the cable supports are not designed to withstand these forces, the cables may become loose or damaged, potentially leading to system failure. To address this, it may be necessary to use vibration damping cable supports or to provide additional support for the cables. Regarding other potential sources of damage, cables can be exposed to extreme temperatures from sunlight, HVAC systems, or other sources. They may also be exposed to corrosive substances, such as cleaning chemicals or industrial fumes. These factors can degrade the cable insulation and conductors, leading to system failure. To mitigate these risks, it may be necessary to use cables that are specifically rated for these conditions or to provide additional protection for the cables. Finally, using cable ties or other approved methods is considered a good practice to secure cables to supports. This can help to prevent cables from sagging, becoming entangled, or being damaged by other objects. It is important to use cable ties that are appropriate for the cable type and the environment. For example, UV-resistant cable ties should be used in areas that are exposed to sunlight. In summary, when installing fire alarm cables in a drop ceiling or other semi-open area, it is essential to comply with the support spacing requirements outlined in both the National Electrical Code and the National Fire Alarm and Signaling Code. These requirements are intended to prevent cable damage and ensure reliable system operation. In addition, it is important to consider other factors that could affect cable integrity, such as movement, vibration, extreme temperatures, and corrosive substances. By following these guidelines, you can help to ensure that the fire alarm system will operate reliably in the event of a fire. The next, specifically Section 300.11a, provides general requirements for the support of raceways, cable assemblies, and cables. It emphasizes that wiring methods shall be supported so that they do not present a hazard. This means that the supports must be adequate to carry the weight of the wiring and prevent it from sagging or creating a tripping hazard. Section 300.11b addresses the support of raceways used as means of support for other raceways, cables, or equipment. This section requires that the raceway used for support be independently supported from the building structure and that the supported raceways, cables, or equipment be securely fastened to the supporting raceway. This is to prevent supported wiring from placing undue stress on the building structure or from becoming dislodged in the event of a fire or other emergency. The NEC also provides specific requirements for the support of different types of cables. For example, Section 330.30 addresses the support of metal-clad cable, also known as MC cable. This section requires that MC cable be supported and secured at intervals not exceeding 6 feet. Section 334.30 addresses the support of non-metallic sheath cable, also known as NM cable. This section requires that NM cable be supported and secured at intervals not exceeding 4/1/2 feet. The specific requirements for cable support may also vary depending on the application. For example, in areas subject to physical damage, the cables may need to be supported more frequently or with more robust supports. Similarly, in areas subject to vibration, the cables may need to be supported with vibration damping supports. NFPA 72 provides additional requirements for the support of fire alarm system wiring. These requirements are intended to ensure that the wiring is protected from damage and that it will continue to function reliably in the event of a fire. Section 12.43 addresses the identification of fire alarm system wiring. This section requires that fire alarm system wiring be clearly identified so that it can be easily distinguished from other wiring. This is to prevent accidental damage or disconnection of the fire alarm system wiring. Section 12.44 addresses the protection of fire alarm system wiring. This section requires that fire alarm system wiring be protected from physical damage, fire, and other hazards. This can be achieved by using appropriate wiring methods such as conduit or cable trays, and by providing adequate fire stopping. In addition to the NEC and NFPA 72, other codes and standards may also apply to the support of fire alarm system wiring. For example, local building codes may have additional requirements for cable support. It is important to consult with the local building authority to determine the applicable requirements. When selecting cable supports, it is important to consider the following factors. Firstly, the type of cable being supported. Different types of cables have different weight and support requirements. Secondly, the environment in which the cable is being installed. Cables installed in harsh environments may require more robust supports. Thirdly, the applicable codes and standards. The cable supports must comply with all applicable codes and standards. There are a variety of different types of cable supports available. Some common types of cable supports include cable ties, cable clamps, cable straps, and cable trays. Cable ties are a simple and inexpensive way to support cables. They are typically made of plastic or nylon and are available in a variety of sizes and colors. Cable clamps are used to secure cables to a surface, such as a wall or ceiling. They are typically made of metal or plastic and are available in a variety of sizes and shapes. Cable straps are similar to cable clamps, but they are typically made of a flexible material such as nylon or Velcro. Cable trays are a more robust way to support cables. They are typically made of metal and are available in a variety of sizes and configurations. When installing cable supports, it is important to follow the manufacturer's instructions. The support should be installed securely and should be spaced according to the applicable codes and standards. The cable should be properly supported and should not be subjected to excessive stress. By following these guidelines, you can help to ensure that the fire alarm system wiring is properly supported and that it will continue to function reliably in the event of a fire. Always consult the latest editions of the NEC and NFPA 72 for the most up-to-date requirements. Moreover, always check with local authorities and building inspectors for any additional regulations or interpretations specific to your location. Remember that proper cable support is not just a matter of compliance, but also a critical factor in ensuring the safety and reliability of the fire alarm system, protecting lives and property. It's also crucial to understand the different types of fire alarm cables and their specific requirements. For instance, some cables are fire resistant and can withstand high temperatures, while others are not. The type of cable used will influence the choice of support and the spacing requirements. Additionally, consider the potential for future modifications or additions to the fire alarm system. It may be wise to install additional supports or use a cable tray system that can accommodate future wiring needs. This can save time and money in the long run and minimize disruptions to the building. Another aspect to consider is the accessibility of the cables for maintenance and inspection. The support should be installed in a way that allows easy access to the cables for troubleshooting and repairs. This is particularly important in concealed spaces such as drop ceilings, where access can be limited. Furthermore, it's essential to ensure that the cable supports are compatible with the materials used in the drop ceiling or other semi-open area. For example, if the drop ceiling is made of metal, the cable support should be made of a non-conductive material to prevent electrical shorts or grounding issues. In addition to the physical support of the cables, it's also important to consider the potential for electromagnetic interference, also known as EMI. EMI can disrupt the operation of the fire alarm system and cause false alarms or system failures. To minimize EMI, it may be necessary to use shielded cables or to separate the fire alarm system wiring from other electrical wiring. Another important consideration is the potential for rodent damage. Rodents can chew on cables and cause damage that can lead to system failures. To prevent rodent damage, it may be necessary to use rodent-resistant cables or to protect the cables with conduit or other physical barriers. When installing cable supports, it's also important to be aware of the potential for tripping hazards. Cables that are not properly supported can sag and create a tripping hazard for building occupants. To prevent tripping hazards, the cable should be supported at the proper intervals and should be routed in a way that minimizes the potential for them to be snagged or tripped over. In addition to the above considerations, it's also important to follow all applicable safety precautions when installing cable supports. This includes wearing appropriate personal protective equipment, also known as PPE, such as gloves and eye protection, and using proper tools and equipment. When working in drop ceilings or other elevated areas, it's also important to use a safe and stable work platform. Finally, it's important to document the installation of the cable supports. This documentation should include the type of cable supports used, the spacing of the supports, and the routing of the cables. This documentation can be helpful for future maintenance and troubleshooting. By following these guidelines, you can help to ensure that the fire alarm system wiring is properly supported and protected, and that the system will operate reliably in the event of a fire. Always remember to consult with qualified professionals and to adhere to all applicable codes and standards. Proper cable support is an essential component of a safe and reliable fire alarm system. Ignoring these requirements can have serious consequences, including system failures, false alarms, and even loss of life. Therefore, it's crucial to take the time to understand and implement the proper cable support practices. In essence, the 6-foot rule is a minimum requirement, and in some cases, more frequent support may be necessary. The goal is to ensure that the cables are adequately supported and protected from damage, regardless of the specific circumstances. This may require careful consideration of the factors discussed above, such as movement, vibration, temperature, and potential for physical damage. Remember, the ultimate responsibility for ensuring the safety and reliability of the fire alarm system rests with the installer and the building owner. It is their duty to ensure that all applicable codes and standards are followed and that the system is properly maintained. By working together and paying attention to detail, they can help to protect lives and property and ensure that the fire alarm system will operate effectively in the event of a fire.